This is a video tour of the course I created in Moodle for IB Chemistry 11 Higher Level. Starting with this introduction window, we'll navigate over to our splash page, which serves as a table of contents. Here we can find image links to various areas within the Moodle, announcements, table of contents, assignments, contact information. Just navigate over to the announcements here. So far we have two general announcements. One is just a general welcome to the course, as well as introduction to myself. There's an attachment of the course outline down here. I will also be including checklists for weekly tasks. So these are the ones that was served for week 1. Navigating back over to our splash page, this one here will link us over to our course outline. Those ones there use image links to jump over to these pages. I've also created some textual links to create jumps over to the actual modules themselves. For example, learners can navigate over to week 1 safety module through that button there, week 2A, and so on and so forth. We just introduced the general announcements. That was the link from previous. General queries forum, this one here is where students can actually pose questions or any clarifications that they need for their course. They can add new topics and they can contribute. Instructors can also contribute here as well. There's 2 discussion forums I've created. One is a general discussion that's open to the entire class. Everyone can contribute. These ones here are more general topics. So far we're talking class introductions as well as sharing some e-learning resources. Look through there. I've also created some group discussion forums. These ones here, I've arranged my groups based on surnames. So these are smaller group discussions. They can facilitate deeper conversations. Groups will only be required to contribute writings to their own respective groups, although all the groups are visible, so you can actually jump and see what other groups are posting as well. Within any particular group, they would only see the discussions within their areas. If they click over to all participants, they can actually see conversations in other areas as well. Navigating down here, we have our course outline again. So my course is separated out into 6 different modules. This is an example of what I would design for the first module, each module taking about 3 weeks. At the bottom here, there are links to different pages. Here's some of the assessment guidelines, assessment outlines. I can jump over to next pages or previous pages through these jumps at the bottom. Here's some more information for my course, Theory of Knowledge. Next is some internal assessment guidelines. Pretty much students will work their way through, and they eventually want to reach this tab here called End of Lesson. Okay, and that's to guarantee that they've searched through all the information. As we scroll way downwards, here's also an introductory survey. This is for students to give some preliminary information to the instructors. We can view some of the questions. Some is just some generic information. What did they do last summer? Their birthday, siblings. Some are more specific to school-related tasks, and they can check through. I've also used the different various formats for the quiz options. We can find through that link to course assignments or down here as well. So far I've created 4 different assignments. These ones here also jump over to the respective assignments. So this is their assignment number 1, assignment 2, just allows for easier navigation around the Moodle platform. Here I've listed some contact information, so my email, phone, and some office hours. Any latest announcements and upcoming events will be introduced on this right side here. And now I'm just going to walk you through some of the activities I've designed for the actual content piece. So this is module 1. This is designated for week number 1. Week number 1 is all about safety, so we'll learn about WHMIS. We can view through the pages here, some overview of what WHMIS introduces us, the new pictograms in 2015. Again, we can jump our way over. Here's some introduction to the labels before and after, 1988 and 2011. Jump over to information for our safety data sheets. Here are some symbols that household hazardous products use as well. More specific safety for us in the classroom. Most of these modules have been designed. There's information at the beginning and then there's some sort of checkup at the end. This one asks us to match a few different pictures. They would just click their way through and submit their answers. As they finish one task, they would jump over to other follow-up tasks. The second assignment window here, this is actually the video tour that I created for a safety video that introduces some of the safety procedures within the lab. I created one video for what not to do. This is an external link out towards YouTube, demonstrating 2 demonstrations but without the proper safety precautions. On the bottom, I've also created another video tour. This one here is exactly the same experiment, but it's actually going to walk you through some of the better safety procedure. And then here's some introduction to what sort of information that they would fill out and submit as a PDF as their first assignment. Finishing this window here, we have our safety quiz. They'll work their way through. There's a 30-minute timeline. They can start their attempt. For this one, because it is on safety and it's so important, there's multiple rewrites, and they're expected to get at least an 80% before completing this lesson. So they'll work their way through the multiple choice, answer their way through. They can navigate through the questions over to the side here, and then finishing their attempt, they would sign off there. For our second module here, this begins week 2. We're introducing the measurement section of our course. So how do we make measurements? How many decimal places should we record our results to? Again, they'll work their way through the unit conversions, just some introduction with SI units, some of our prefaces, how do we perform unit conversions from sort of simple and slowly becoming more complex. And again, there's some conversion practice towards the end. So after we introduce some of the content, there's always some checkup. I'm just going to go to the edit window just for simplicity here. Here we see the content a little bit better, and here are the checkup windows. We can navigate back over here. Most of these tasks have been outlined sequentially. Second task here will be significant figures. Once they complete their tasks, there will be a check mark in this box over on the right side. They click over significant figures. Again, there's some introduction to the content, some of the rules for significant figures, how they propagate their significant figures through addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and again, followed by some checkups. So how do we identify sig figs, how many sig figs are each of these guys here, and again, they would just check the respective entries. Here is again the edit tab, so we can see a little bit better what's coming up. So we got up to the matching window. There's some more calculations practiced towards the end. That's their introduction to significant figures. We're going to jump over next is error propagation. So how do they carry experimental uncertainty through these calculations? Introducing the various definitions, accuracy, precision, types of errors. How do they represent errors is on this next page here. Introducing how do they carry through errors through a problem. There's some sample examples through multiplication, division, along with some checkups again. And then through the edit tab, we can see there's some introduction to mixed calculation, averages, and then some more follow-up checkups at the end. That's designated for 2A, so it's the beginning part of week 2. Week 2B here is actually on graphing. Okay. Just before we get to that, there's also an assignment 2 here. There's a task that would actually practice propagating through some of the calculations. So back to week 2B here, we have some graphical techniques. So introduction to some basic graphical trends, some patterns, some relationships. Talking about best fits, so what they need to know about how do we draw this best fit line, various correlations. Here's a checklist for some good graphing techniques, and again, some practicing for graphing relationships. Scroll the way down here. This one here is designated as a wiki, so groups will actually work together in their designated groups. They're going to practice graphing using Google Sheets, so they're going to find some sample data on Google, they're going to transcribe the data, they're going to practice through some of the various options within Google Sheets, putting a title, customizing their axes with units, as well as adding a trend line, and then once they answer their way through the question, they can contribute their graph. Here's one sample, and they would just introduce lower graphs on the bottom there. And lastly here we have the information for week 3. So this one here is on matter, classification of matter, how do we classify pure substances versus mixtures. Again, we can jump our way back and forth through the links at the bottom. Here we introduce some separation techniques which rely on some physical characteristics. I've separated these pages so that people don't have to navigate too far down the page. They can just click over. And we'll have our kinetic energy. And again, there's some practice towards the end. Let's see the practice activities here. After working through the information on that matter window there, they finish up their last assignment, which is assignment 4. They're going to figure out the thickness of a piece of aluminum foil using some of the error propagation stuff they've learned previously. Once they finish their assignment, they'll just submit it there. And then we end off with some naming, nomenclature of ionic formulas and covalent formulas, introduction to periodic tables, combining capacities, ionic compounds, the various different types, the charts that they'll be introduced to. We'll jump over to hydrates and acids, and as well as some practice again where they can choose their way through which is the appropriate name for these compounds. That's an introduction to ionic practice. There's some covalent information coming up afterwards. And then we finish off our course with our reactions. So here's just introduction to the 6 types of reactions that we're going to be needing to do. So balancing with mass conservation. Here's some practice. And as well, we're just going to just introduce the different reaction types. So synthesis, decomposition, walk through some of the information, provide some simple examples. And again, towards the end, there's a little bit more practice for predicting. So that's pretty much my course. That's designated for Module 1, and then we would work our way to stoichiometry for the first main topic. Thanks for watching.